So cupping is a method that we use to look for the flavor components of the freshly roasted coffee. It's also a way to look for the defects in that cup of coffee. So before we allow this coffee to meet our guests and our customers, we want to make sure that it's roasted to our specifications, that it meets those flavor profile notes, that we don't have any defects that we weren't able to see from the green bean to the roasting process into the cup. This was developed in the producing countries. When the green bean buyers would come in, they would want to roast the coffee and sort of get that initial impression of what they were buying, so when they reached back out to the coffee roasters like myself, they could say, okay, this coffee has a hint of berry or jam or citrus notes or chocolate and caramel. That's sort of the science behind that. The growers really wanted to know, and the green bean buyers wanted to really know what they were going to expect when that cup would come into the country. So the first part that we'll have is we've got our beans. So we'll look at our beans, we'll look for defects. If you over roasted the bean, you might have black strips around it. You might have a dry, brittle, cracked bean. So you'll just sort of look at the beans. You'll give that a little smell.
Smells good.
And it's beautiful. Now wait, now we've just ground the beans. So now the beans are a nice powder. Give that a nose and you're gonna start to notice it changes as you go. And now as we add water to it, it's really going to bring this coffee to life. And we'll do that quickly, and we're going to start our timer at the same time. So as we do that, we're allowing the coffee to sort of bloom. Bloom is that sensation of the smell. And so we're going to stick our nose really close to this cup. Now we're basically brewing the coffee in hot water. So as we go through the first 3 minutes, we're going to really come back and smell as it cools. Next, we'll break the crust. And once we break the crust of the coffee, we'll sort of have a different aroma. It's like a pan-seared steak. We're going to slice that open and see what's on the inside. And what you'll do is you'll take the back side of your spoon, sort of like you were stirring a soup that was too warm, and you just want to dip your spoon in and smell at the same time. Before we start slurping, we're just going to take those grounds and remove them from the cup. So you just take your 2 spoons and just skim over the surface. So we're not, as we start slurping, we reduce the amount of grounds that actually are going to be going into our mouth. So then you'll take your spoon and then you're going to slurp. As you slurp, you're going to want to aerate it in your mouth. That's going to open all of your taste buds up and your nose at the same time, so you actually have that taste and that smell. So it's going to sound very romantic. And that really aerates the coffee into your mouth and sort of allows you to taste all of those flavors.
All right, let's give it a try here.
So now it's sort of aspirating in your mouth as you go, and it's covering all of your taste buds and your palate at the same time. It comes into your nose, so you smell and taste all at the same time. The coffee began at about 200 degrees, and what we've allowed with time is slowly but surely to let that temperature drop down. So coffee sort of evolves as it cools. You know, it could get more bitter, it could get more sweet, it could get more sour. So what we're doing as it cools down is we're allowing time to pass, so it cools off the cup. And so as it cools, it becomes easier for your mouth to sort of pick up those flavors, because now the heat isn't counterbalancing your taste buds. So we know as it cools, this coffee is even more unique than what it was when it was very, very hot. So you've now cooled it to where it's getting down to that point where if it was your cup of coffee, you could take the final few swallows and finish your cup. It's a complete sensory perception that you're working on here. So that's why your taste buds are such an important part of coffee, your nose and your eyes. So every part of the body is coming together to taste this coffee. You know, as we took this tutelage from people that have been in the coffee business for 20 and 30 years, you know, they really taught us to sort of evolve and grow our palate and sort of find those things that we're looking for. So when we know we're roasting a natural, we're looking for that sweetness. And when we roast it, we're trying to highlight that sweetness. When we're doing a pure washed coffee, we're looking for that deep chocolate, that nuttiness and things like that. So we're sort of bringing those to the table. I will never be an expert at this if I do this for the rest of my life, because this is always a challenge that you want to get better at and you want to continue growing and learning from others.